Ty had said, these are some of the best gunfighters I've been with ever in my career, which was awesome that he would say that about the guys. We all really looked up to Ty. I mean, I think I'm I'm like 4 years older than Ty, but I knew he had more experience in combat than I did at the time. He was that quintessential Master Chief. Every morning he would walk out and he'd be standing at the door of his hooch and he'd have a styrofoam cup with coffee in it. And I'm like, I could see you standing up on top of the frickin' berm at the frickin' beach, standing there drinking coffee like, yeah, you little rugrats, During that time, I'd been reading No Easy Day. It gave me something to bust Ty's balls with every day because I'm reading. I'm like, man, you ought to read this. Is this true? You're a SEAL. You can tell me. Mark, what the hell? I don't freaking believe in that kind of shit. And I'd read some more, and every day I'd freaking hit him at breakfast or something like that and be, hey, did this really happen, man? You got to know. You're on the insides. You mean? If I can get him talking about anything, he's going to confess. One way or the other. I can get him to confess. And it's, it doesn't take torture. It doesn't take anything like that. There's a method to it. This is one of the hard things for a lot of people to do is because you got to sympathize or at least empathize with the perp. I mean, my interrogation, I never would go arrest them and bring them in. I would invite them to come in. They're master manipulators. I mean, they think they've got it down and they can manipulate everybody because that's how they've made their way through life. That's how they get the kids. I'd never put them in an interrogation room because I don't want them to think they're getting interrogated. Like if we're sitting here like this, if the door's over there, I make sure that the perpetrator be sitting in your chair because I want them close to the door. I want the door off to their side. And I'd have a clock over here usually, things like that, so I can read their body language. So when I'm asking questions and I start getting nervous, that's when that nonverbal behavior comes out that they can't control. Hit a target and tell Tonto and DB, hey, you see this one? Yeah, and he would hit a target and they would do that.
How far out are you guys engaging?
Well, we hadn't engaged yet. They were probably 100 meters out.
Oh, so you're just lasing targets.
We're just lasing and watching them move up.
So these guys, just for the audience, you have lasers, you have night vision, you're lasing targets, you're basically identifying them by, hey, I'm going to shine my laser on this guy, everybody gets visibility. The thing is, for the civilians listening, the bad guys don't even realize they're being lased because you cannot see the laser unless you have night vision on.
Right.
And these guys didn't have night vision.
Call from Tyrone, and he said, hey, get back to the annex, stay away from the consulate. Didn't say anymore because it's on open source, unencrypted, and I gathered up the female case officer. I'm like, hey, we got to go now. Got loaded up in the car, and we're on thin skin.
Thin skin means not armored vehicle.
But we had a secured comms in there, and that's when we turned on the radio and found out what was going on. And as we're heading out the gate of the compound, you could hear gunfire, explosions, and the female case officer is like, holy shit, what's going on? And and it was kind of funny because she's sitting there, wanting to tell me, okay, we got to do this. I'm like, I need you to shut up. I don't need your freaking mouth. I need your eyes. Look for threats. And if it ain't a threat, don't freaking say nothing.
How are you doing mentally?
I'm going to always have struggles, but it's never been real bad. People, they always come up, man, I bet you got PTSD. And I'm like, no, not really. I can't say no completely, but it's not like what people think. People have this idea of what PTSD is. It's like, no, I don't have bad dreams. I don't have survivor's guilt. This is probably one of the worst, but it's not the only thing that I've ever seen or done or whatever. Time in military and time in everything, And I wouldn't be where I'm at if it wasn't for the Lord, for sure. If it wasn't for Christ being in my life and Him being first. I've always had my faith. I was born with it. I had a wonderful youth pastor and his wife that gave me that support and that foundation. I always get the question, what's different now than it was then? Is before Benghazi, I kind of worshiped the Lord in a way that it worked for me, more of a selfish way. I got blown up 3 times. I should have died 3 times. Yes, I know, Lord, I'm a hard-headed jarhead. You had to freaking blow me up to get my attention, but you got it. Part of me is wishing I was with them because that's where I should be in my mind. I was at that point worried about getting back to the consulate or to the annex because there was a lot of close calls. Probably the most dangerous one, and I thought it was going to be the end of it, is we're pulling up. We're half a mile, maybe a mile from the annex, And as we're pulling up to it, there's a car in front of us. And I mean, we're only driving 25, 30 mile an hour. It's just flow of traffic. These two cars pull in like this, and about 6 to 8 guys jump out with AKs and set up a roadblock. Going through my mind is, okay, what the hell am I going to do here? The good Lord was looking out for us, because the car in front of me didn't stop and drove through the roadblock. All of those guys turned their attention to that car and started yelling at it, because it's otherwise. I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to freaking just give up. So we're going to have a hell of a gunfight here. And I told the lady, I'm like, you better be ready for this. She's like, what? What's going to happen? I'm like, after that IED went off, he jumped up and was shooting right next to me. And I didn't have any ear pro in at that time. And his muzzle was right here, freaking blew out this eardrum. We had him in a crossfire. And I mean, we took us maybe 5 to 7 minutes, maybe 10 at most, before we either took them all out or either killed them or injured them, and they decided to pull back. And we're feeling pretty good because shit, we got through all that. I got cut in the face because they were trying to shoot our lights out. Tig's coming up because he was bringing water over, and that blew up in between us. That's what initiated their attack on us.
How was communication with the drone? By
the time it went, there was too many layers to go through, is my guess, because I've never had that in the past anywhere else.
Yeah.
You usually get pretty quick response. I mean, because by the time they're like, yeah, you guys got people moving up. Yeah, they're already shooting at us. Get us some fast movers, get us in a Spectre gunship. That had to go through Bob to Tripoli. Where it got after that, don't know. In Crete, we were I can almost guarantee you there was a freaking Spectre gunship there, because that's just kind of how it is.
I'm sure there was a lot of assets all around.
I'll tell you about most of them I found out since after a bit.
Great.
We have victimized a lot of PTSD and our veterans. We've told them that if you've seen bad things, you have to have this, and this is how it's going to affect your life. I mean, we've monetized it, because if you have it, you get 100% disability.
Man, I wish you didn't have to go to the airport right now. I would love to dive into this conversation with you, because I see it. There's been a lot of trauma in the past, 22 years.
Yeah.
You've had one of the most profound experiences that you can have in combat. I see people, they make a career out of PTSD. I mean, I still talk about it, but what I like to talk about is how you've overcome it, and how you've moved past it, or how you've learned to live with it, or whatever it is, and it becomes very apparent that it's like, okay, you don't actually want to move past this. You don't want to get better. You just want to use this for the rest of your life as a vehicle to either get pity or make money.
The guy jumps out, and I catch him out of the corner of my eye as I'm watching him come in, and he's got his arm thrown back like he's going to throw something. So I shoot him 3 times, kill him, and what he's throwing lands about 10 feet from the back gate, and it's another IED, and blows up, and that opened up the next firefight. And this one probably lasted about 15 to 20 minutes. Took a little bit longer to kill them all, or get most of them. Difference in the movie and this is there's only 4 of us shooting. The rest of the guys are covering the rest of the perimeter. And that's one thing the movie didn't show. It had us all engaged at one time, because there was only one side that they were coming at. But you got to, as you know, you got to protect yourself for what's not coming too, or what could be coming. So it's Tonto and DB here, and me and Tig, and just tearing them up. Scott Wicklund, he was the AIC for that night with the ambassador, and got separated from him in the fire, because Scott went out a window and was trying to bring the ambassador out that window, but didn't make it because the ambassador lost contact with him. It's a training mistake. And I don't like talking bad about it, but it was the failure on training. I mean, Scott, what we do is link on me. Mm-hmm. You grab a hold of me and hold on. Don't ever freaking let go. If I feel you let go, I'm turning around to look for you. That never happened.
Damn.
That's the only thing I can draw from it, because they got separated, and the way Scott talked about it, he turned back around to look, and the ambassador wasn't there anymore. Well, you failed to get him to there. Stay right here. Do not move. Like, you got to do that to people, because in that kind of high stress,
Here in Franklin, Tennessee, they had one of the biggest sex trafficking rings in the country busted. That wasn't long ago. That was maybe a year ago. Then a couple weeks ago, they found out that there was a soccer coach. I don't know exactly what he was doing, but he was drugging little boys and videoing it. And he left his cell phone at I believe it was at a pizza shop. They were just trying to figure out whose phone it was. They went through some pictures, saw a video, got it to the police. This guy had been doing this for a long time.
My first place was Peshawar, Pakistan. I mean, I've been to a lot of third world countries. That one was a little bit unique, kind of reminded me of the first Star Wars, you know, when he walks into that bar, had all the weirdos everywhere in it, you know. Because you see some sights. I mean, outside of Peshawar, there's just all the mud huts that used to be housing for all of the Afghanis that escaped Afghan when the Russians invaded. Polio as a bad thing over there. There was a kid, I can remember this kid. He must have been 16, 17 years old, and he had a little cart with caster wheels on it that he laid on. His legs, he was so decrepit with polio that his legs were folded up over his back. He had one hand that steered and he had the other hand with a glove on it, and he would push himself like this going all the way down the street next to the busy traffic going the other direction. Things like that, you know, you just see the resiliency of mankind as well.